I think that the topic today is let's talk about our customers. What is changing? What are the trends in the market? And how are they affecting in this very complex world? So we have today 3 top firms, international firms, BlackRock, JP Morgan Asset Management, and Fidelity. And we're going to share with you some thoughts, and they're going to explain to us how they manage the complexity in these moments, because they manage EMEA, so that's a very vast region. And we're going to dive, from the more generic we'll come to Spain, okay? So bear with us for a second, and let's start, okay? So, Claire, how is marketing evolving, and how do you think, it's changing from being more of a support function into becoming really a strategic driver? And how do you measure the results? Because everybody's focused right now on results. So what's your view in BlackRock about this?
Yeah, well, hey, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. And I think I've been at BlackRock for 8 years and have really seen that trend. So from marketing kind of pivoting from being a support function to really kind of a driver of commercial impact. And I guess why is that? I think lots of different reasons. One of marketing's genuine USPs is that we have access to really deep customer insights. And actually that puts us in a really unique position to identify unmet client demands. And I think increasingly marketing teams are being the architects of proprietary client research, which can uncover all sorts of insights from behavioral to attitudinal to industry trends. And actually what we're seeing is the firm are then using these insights to inform business strategy, the product development pipeline, in addition to, of course, the marketing strategy. So I think that's one thing. I also think in recent years, marketing as a discipline, as a function, has been a real beneficiary of the digital revolution, meaning teams can now leverage database and digital marketing techniques to segment audiences with precision and also personalize engagement at scale. And I think this unique ability to drive scale distribution of strategic messages to thousands of clients, but importantly in a really highly targeted way, is driving real commercial impact. And we're now really able to link marketing activity with business KPIs. So like closing out the sales pipeline or driving net new revenues.
Okay, thanks. We are marketeers. I have been marketing myself. And I think there's always this question about how much weight we should put into the brand versus, product or distribution or technology. So Luca, how do you see this brand differentiation efforts, and how do you treat that in Fidelity?
First and foremost, thanks for being with us today. I think that there's a lot of discussion in the marketing world today around brand and what's the right balance between brand and performance marketing and product communication. I think our industry has always been downplaying brand in favor of talking about performance, talking about PM profile strategies, and rightfully so, because if you ask fund professionals, investment professionals, and they always rank brand quite low in the list of factors they consider when selecting an asset manager. That's what at least market research tells us. But you see, when I started my career, I was a banker, and I clearly remember the moment when you are sitting in front of your client and you've gone through the proposal with them and they're about to sign, and then they stop for a second, they look at you and ask you, hey, who are these guys you're asking me to invest with? And this is a tough moment because, they have to take a leap of faith. They have to hand their money to someone to manage. And money, we know, is never a number. It's got history attached to that. It's got memories. It's got feelings attached to it. So handing it to someone else, it's a painful choice. And here is where, if we have done our job well and you have done your job well, the brand, your personal brand, our brand, helps the client make that choice. How is this changing now, evolving? It's becoming even more important than ever because we live in a world where change happens at the speed of light. It's very confusing for investors today, retail and professional investors alike. And in my view, brands act like beacons in a storm. So they show you the way. They show you a safe direction, a place you can go, you can trust. So there's a lot of they say receipts in marketing research today around what's the right balance, 60-40, 80-20. Every company needs to find their own. Every company needs to find the right balance there. But what doesn't change is that brand has a strong value. And when we talk about differentiation, then I'll close with this. Apologies, I'm Italian. I speak a lot, so I'm trying to keep the time there. Is that brand for big global organizations such as ours? Brand helps keep the company close around the same goal. So if you got a strong brand identity, it's easier to have from product development to client servicing the same, and promotion, of course, and marketing, the same message and the same goal. So that helps differentiating in this today's complex world.
If I may, I just think something that you brought up is really important around that. It's helping clients make the right decisions. But even, I think, once they've made that decision, reconfirming that they've made the right decision, if you will. So that resilience and retention of clients is something that I feel like comes even more into play with a strong brand, at least hopefully.
Yeah, I think there was a recent example. If you look at the role of marketing and you look at Nike, the quote of Nike was quite dramatic in the last years. And I think they unfold their strategy and they came back into brand because they put a lot of focus into product, probably too much weight into product. So we are seeing examples that this is not something that people can tell us, that marketeers we are painting, No, this actually influence the P&L to a great extent, okay? So now moving into customers, okay? So as you have a very wide role in EMEA, how do you manage these levels of complexity of having customers in different geographies, in different segments of the market, different products? Everybody, I guess, is pushing internally in your organization for your airtime and your marketing dollars. So, Arlene, how do you manage this in JP Morgan Asset Management, and what is the role of AI, if there is, in all of that?
Well, I haven't said thank you for being here as well. It's an honor to be with my colleagues up here. I think about this in sort of three ways, and I call them the 3 Ps, sort of personalization, predictive analytics, and then process. So personalization just helps you get closer to your clients. And AI is making that scalable for us. Allowing us to build a view of a client in a way that's organized and structured. And I think with the predictive analytics, what we can do with AI is build different personas that allow us to test and try different marketing approaches and see how they'll appeal to different groups. So you're always in a test and learn loop, which I think is a really powerful, sorry, I'm ignoring you, a really powerful way of pushing the marketing agenda forward. And then simply, the third one, process, it's allowing us to get rid of what we call the no joy work in marketing, the repetitive, mundane tasks, and push a more creative, high-touch marketing role so that we are getting even closer to those clients. So I'm a big AI fan.
By the way, how many do you use, in your day-to-day job? Do you use it at a professional and personal level? Of course. Every day, or?
More and more every day.
More and more every day, okay. Yeah, me too.
I find actually one of the nicest parts of it is actually more on the LLM side or the language models, is that it's an easy sparring partner. So you can just test new ideas or brainstorm with yourself. And you have a conversation, it keeps going. And I find it really bolsters creativity. I know there's a concern around it stemming it, but I think it really bolsters it.
Okay, from that, taking that point into consideration, let's move on now into how do you collaborate, in your marketing day-to-day job with other functions that are very close to customers, specifically with sales, but also asset management, product people that are face-to-face to a customer. how do you manage all of this that at the end makes sense for your customers, because obviously at a global scale, this is complex. So how do you manage that, Claire, for instance?
Yeah, it's certainly my observation that I think firms are moving beyond kind of that really traditional static siloed organizational structure where I think historically different teams managed kind of different parts of the customer value exchange and so to a much more, I think, client-centric model. And I think this is absolutely necessary in the increasingly complicated world that kind of we're all operating in, and where it's absolutely imperative that we, I think, genuinely place the customer at the heart of all of our decision-making. And I think at BlackRock, what we found is that cross-functional teams that are organized around either client segments or strategic priorities, and whether those teams be marketing, sales, or product, everyone brings their own expertise or point of view. But I think fundamentally what we've found is the whole is much greater than the sum of its parts, certainly from a customer experience standpoint. And then I think intelligence sharing is also key to this more agile operating model that we're embracing. And having a single source of truth like a CRM platform really helps to keep all of the parties aligned, as well, of course, as kind of really transparent, timely dialogue between teams. So yeah, keep the customer at the center and operate across different teams.
Okay, I think in this panel, I forgot to say, but probably if we add all the AUMs that these companies manage is, I don't know how many times, several times the GDP of Spain, by the way, so no, that's as an anecdote, but I think you both raised a very good point, is how AI can help us, driving this complex, both internally and externally, and how do we put it in the benefit of the customer? Because I think sometimes in this industry, we tend to think too much about our internal side because our, big organizations are complex to manage. So how do we assure that we put technology and specifically AI for the benefit of the customer? So Arlene, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, I think, I see there are some concerns, right? And you do need to mitigate and put the right governance structure around them. But thinking things like data privacy and ensuring that you don't have those biases built into a model that, you're constantly interacting with. I think I worry about, the lack of human touch with AI. And so making sure that you use it in the right way, but don't use it exclusively. So back to what I was saying about creativity, the dialogue helps the creativity, the person's spurring it on, but you're not just blindly taking sort of what comes out. I do think the opportunities outweigh the concerns, if you will. So thinking about the possibility around that hyper-personalization or the personalization at scale. So being able to talk to your clients where they are and how they want to hear it is just made so much easier using AI. And, back to what I was saying about the ability to test. And so you're constantly optimizing on a loop, which I think as a we're all going to benefit. We're all going to have a much more enriched client experience as a result.
You want to comment something on this?
If I may, I completely agree. If I may, probably the other side, the dark side of this is what the risk of having this kind of blind trust towards AI implementation. We need to keep control. And this for a number of reasons. The first thing is, I heard someone say, we want the AI to do the dishes while we do arts, not the AI doing art while we do the dishes. I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
But the second thing is that AI is still a tool. So we need to ensure that it delivers on what we expect it to. There was a recent research around the negative impact of the bad use of AI on UK businesses, on which were harmed by bad AI chatbots, bad AI tool, and I think this is good. This is good for us because there's still space for us to lead the process, but definitely it opens up a lot of possibilities if properly governed.
You want to comment something?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. I think, AI is just an incredible tool that we as marketers can now use to kind of particularly drive scale across complex regions and lots of different markets, languages, different creative kind of interpretations. But I think to your point, it's really important to remember that as marketers, we are the guardians of kind of the client experience. We're the voice of the customer. So it's that intersection between kind of leveraging the tool, but always ensuring that there is a human on the other side of it, interpreting that for the benefit of the customer. I think that's going to be the key as this all evolves.
Now let's move from the generic into Spain, okay? We are here, we are now. I would like to get your views about how do you see the Spanish market in the context of your EMEA role. Spain, in the overall industry numbers has been, quite healthy in the latest years. So how do you foresee the future? And up to what extent do you think, on the top of AI, it relies on the quality of the people on the ground? So you want to open?
Well, it's easy to start saying that for Fidelity, Spain is a very important market. And I'm not just saying this because I'm in front of you. I'm saying this because it's a market with an amazing momentum. It's a market where the cross-border players like ours have tripled their assets in the last 15 years since the big crisis. And I have had the pleasure of being head of Southern Europe for a few years before taking this role. So I know the market close, I know the clients close. And I could see it. It's interesting because big global companies like ours, they usually tend to package together in the same region, Italy, Spain, Portugal. And it makes sense from one end because there's some similarities, of course. Well, it's first and foremost beautiful countries, amazing people, great food and weather. We could discuss later where's the best food and wine is, but offline. But definitely, jokes aside, conservative markets, retail-driven or wholesale-driven, less institutional. So there are some similarities, but there are also a lot of differences. And this makes it, I think, that creates some kind of specific opportunities and challenges for the Spanish business. First and foremost, the Spanish market has a higher level of financial education than the OECD average, 64 versus 63%. So the financial literacy index is higher, much higher than countries like France or Italy, which allows to have more mature conversation and open up more, professional conversation with your clients. It's a market which probably also opens up this kind of more balanced view of active versus passive. Some markets are all active or all passive. Spain's got quite a balanced approach, and hence also the success of index fund passives in the market. On the other end, probably, and this is a big opportunity for all of us in the market and for the clients first, it is a big retirement gap. Yeah. So 9% of the GDP in terms of rates between pension funds and GDP versus an OECD average, which I think is around 40%. So there's a big opportunity there, considering that Spain has the highest longevity index among bigger European countries, 82.6 years, and healthy living is going high. It's a market which has a lot of quality of the people, like you said. I mean, from Milan, I was heading the Spanish team. Today, we got a guy in Madrid heading the Italian team. And that speaks about the quality of the people on the ground. And probably the last thing I would like to point out is the level of cooperation and the growing importance of partnerships. Not so much in terms of, hey, let's do a marketing campaign together, but in terms of co-creation, co-development of solution for the clients. I think there's a lot of space for companies like ours to work more closely with the big intermediaries on the ground. So I think it's a market that has the need for long-term commitment, local relevance, and definitely a lot of substance in the proposition you bring to the market.
I agree with everything you said, and obviously, we're sitting in a place where I think this is a really dynamic, innovative market, and it's one that I look to, and it's really interesting when I work with my colleagues here, hearing they're very in tune with the industry. So the industry is tight, regardless of where you sit in it. Events like this, and the learnings that you can get from different parts of the industry. We were talking the last time I was here about finfluencers and how they affect the market, and how do you work with finfluencers? And this is the only country where I'm seeing that sort of financial education we were talking about, and the impact, and the sort of younger generations looking for that in a different way. Even looking at some of the ways that the selling and the platforms, it's really a dynamic place to be, and one that we look at for inspiration for other markets. So I think Spain is a really interesting market that's different. I know it gets lumped in, like you said, with the other warm places with good food, but I think there's a lot of really unique, interesting things to learn from here.
Okay. So now leveraging that we have you, and leveraging that you guys have been here, waiting for the food and staying here to listen these three so good professionals. Now we, as marketeers, are gonna give you all one secret tip, but don't tell the people that are outside, because this is gonna be secret, okay? So I will ask each of you to disclose one secret tip to this audience, okay?
In 5 words, you talk.
In 5 words, as possible, if possible.
All right. I'm not sure it's a secret tip, but what I would say is just deeply know your clients. So in the same vein, mine is maximize every client interaction thoughtfully.
Well, I was about to say know your clients, which is less than 5 words. But yes, definitely that's going to be it, because that's what AI will not replace, your knowledge of your clients.
Okay, my secret tip, if they allow me to say, is rate these guys very high if you want them to come next year, okay? Thank you very much, and enjoy the food.
Thank you.
Thank you.